leading up to where we are today with Perseverance. Perseverance Deputy Project Manager Jennifer Trosper has worked on every Mars rover mission, and she joins us now. Jennifer, how does Perseverance fit of exploring?
Thanks for great to be. Exploration, she has found evidence of a habitable environment in an ancient lake bed on Mars. So now we're sending Perseverance. Perseverance is tasked with question and looking for evidence of ancient microbial life on Mars. And in order to do this, she has to be the smartest and most capable rover we've ever sent.
Speaking of Perseverance, can you tell us more about how Perseverance is smarter than its predecessors?
Yes, we've made a lot of upgrades to help her along with the surface mission. One of them is for her autonomous traverse capability. When I say autonomous traverse, I mean we tell her where we want her to end up, and she has to figure out the safe and best way to get there. In order to do that, she uses her cameras, algorithms, a computer. So we've given her another computer, we've upgraded the cameras, and we've upgraded the algorithms. Now she drives 3 times as fast as Curiosity could drive in this autonomous traverse mode. In fact, her average daily distance for driving, about 200 meters, is close to the maximum distance any rover has ever driven in a day on Mars. So she's fast. Another thing that we've done, which is the most significant upgrade that we've made, is the sample caching system itself. Curiosity has a robotic arm, like Perseverance has a robotic arm, but on the end of Perseverance's robotic arm is a coring drill that will go and take rock cores, transfer them into sample tubes and into the rover, where another robotic arm will take those tubes, will seal them and store them, and eventually drop them on the surface of Mars for future return to Earth.
Great, and we also have a social media question about Perseverance. Erica AS on Instagram wants to know what the wheels of the rover are made out of.
Great question. Well, you may think we make them out of some material you've never heard of. It turns out they're made of aluminum. Now, Perseverance's wheels are a little thicker than Curiosity's, but they're actually both made out of aluminum.
And one more question for you. Can you tell us more about the importance of where you are right now in the building?
Yes, I am above, on the second floor, above the cruise mission support area that you've been watching. And this is the surface mission support area. So as soon as Perseverance lands, all commands, this room will take over. It will become headquarters for operating Perseverance on Mars.
Thanks for taking the time to talk to us today, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Now, we now know Perseverance's place in history. Let's take an up-close look at the rover with Mars 2020 System Testbed Engineer Elio Morillo.
Thank you, Raquel. I'm standing in front of the Mars 2020 Perseverance scaled model. As you can tell, this vehicle is about the size and coring capabilities that will allow us to do contact science once we get to the surface of Mars. Not only that, this robotic system is equipped to collect samples about the size of a piece of chalk that then eventually will be stored inside and dropped off in a later location so that an eventual mission can go and return these samples to Earth, something we've never done in the past. Here in the front, we have the remote sensing mast. Something of note is that this mechanism is going to be stowed upon the touchdown on the surface of Mars. And one of the first critical activities we do is deploy this mechanism. This mechanism includes several cameras that are going to give us some of the most breathtaking images we've ever taken on Mars. Along with that, we have some lasers as well as a spectrometer. They're going to allow us to do some remote science. Here you see some of these extrusions that are part of the larger weather suite of instruments that will allow us to characterize the local climate around Perseverance. So that's a quick tour of the rover, but I got to get back to work. So back to you.
Perseverance is collecting samples of Martian rock for future return to Earth. We've heard that scientists have been wanting to bring Martian samples back for many generations. And here to talk a little bit about that is NASA's Planetary Science Division Director, Lori Glaze, who joins us now to talk about the role Perseverance will play in NASA's future goals. Welcome, Lori.
Hi.
Now, as you just heard, we've heard that scientists have been wanting to bring back these Martian samples for a very long time. Why do we need to bring them back?
That's really a great question. You know, we actually have examples of Mars already here on Earth that came here as meteorites. But exactly where they came from on Mars, and then they also have had to make the trip from Mars to Earth. And so they got altered during that time, and then during their entry and descent into the Earth's atmosphere, that also changes what those rocks are like. So being able to go to Mars and actually collect a sample where we know exactly where it came from, and we know we can preserve it and keep it pristine and carry it all the way back here, this will be incredibly important to help us answer questions about the geologic history of Mars, understanding how it formed and evolved, and also really important questions about whether or not life actually existed on Mars 3.5 billion years ago, and whether that life, if it existed, has been preserved in the surface of Mars.
Now, Lori, these sample tubes that Perseverance is going to be collecting, they're the cleanest things ever created on Earth. Tell me a little bit about that.
Oh my goodness. We worked so hard. The team here at JPL is absolutely incredible to assure that those sample tubes are incredibly clean. One of the main goals of this mission is to be able to detect if there's actual life that's preserved, ancient life preserved in those rocks, in those samples. And we definitely don't want to be carrying, our own DNA off to Mars and then bring it back here to confuse our scientists when they're trying to study those samples. So it is an incredibly clean set of equipment that's been sent there. As you said, the cleanest thing we've ever sent into space.
Now, this is a very complicated campaign. Can you break down for us how it's going to work, and if there's any international partners working with us?
You are correct. The Mars sample return campaign is incredibly complex. In fact, it's probably the most challenging thing we've ever tried to do. But we're definitely not going to try and do it alone. We have great partners with the European Space Agency. And the way this campaign is going to work, well, Perseverance is the first step. Chapter 1 is going to Mars and collecting the samples. Chapter 2 is going to be a sample return lander that we hope to launch in around 2026 to 2028. And that lander, it'll be an American lander carrying a fetch rover that's provided by European Space Agency. And that little fetch rover will drive out and pick up the samples that Perseverance left on the surface of Mars. And the Fetch rover will bring them back and load them into a rocket that we call the Mars Ascent Vehicle, which will be the first ever launch from another planet. And it will launch those samples into orbit around Mars. In the meantime, European Space Agency will have an orbiter that's in orbit around Mars that can rendezvous and capture those samples and then bring them back to Earth for us to study back here in our amazing laboratories.
A lot of firsts, it sounds like, Lori. And another first, how is Perseverance and the Mars Sample Return mission going to help the future exploration, human exploration of Mars?
I'm so glad you asked that. I think we're going to get a lot of great information from Mars Sample Return with, again, being able to land the heaviest payload we've ever landed on Mars will be that Sample Return lander. That's critical to us learning how to land humans on Mars. And then we are definitely going to want to be able to launch the humans back off of Mars. So that Mars Ascent Vehicle is going to be critical, that first step of the first launch from another planet.
So exciting, Lori. And speaking about the Mars generation, we're now going to take a student question for you from Livia.
Hi, my name is Livia, and my question is, what made you want to study Mars, and why are you working so hard and willing to wait so long for a sample? Thank you.
Oh, Olivia, that is such a great question. And I enjoy Mars just because it can tell us so much about how our solar system formed and evolved. All of the planets can tell us different parts of that story, and Mars is a really key piece of that. And one of the main reasons we're willing to wait so long to get the sample back is that we've got great new scientists that are all about your age, and in about 10 or 15 or 20 years, you'll be the generation that's going to actually get to work with these samples. When they come back, you'll be the scientists and engineers that will be the next generation to change how we think about Mars and how we think about life in the solar system.
That was a great question, Lori. Reach for the stars, future little scientists and engineers. Thank you so much for joining us here